Today we're going to be talking about the Smith & Wesson M&P 10, which is the 308 version of the AR-15 platforms within the Smith & Wesson model line. When you look at the rifle, it's actually very familiar to typical AR-15s, just a little bit larger version, to accommodate the 308 caliber load. Ironically, when Stoner created the original AR-15 platform, it was based on the 308 caliber load. So here we are back to where we started. This is also a great rifle for people who like the AR-15 platform but want just a little bit more punch with a higher caliber load. So this version here that we have is the MOE Magpul version, which means it has the aftermarket Magpul furniture on the rifle, as well as a couple other additional changes I've made. So I'm going to talk about these in the video, and then we're going to also go through some of the accuracy testing with some of the loads that I put through this rifle. So to begin with, real quick, let's just talk about the rifle itself. For those who are familiar with the AR-15 platform, it'll look very familiar to you. It's just a little bit larger size to accommodate the load. In this case, moving from back forward, typical castle nut configuration. The base plate does not have, or at least this model does not have a QD or sling mount. It does have a good pistol grip option, and then we have some ambidextrous options. So both the fire safety as well as the magazine release are both fully ambidextrous on this rifle. So when you look at both sides, it does support that. It's not a big issue for me normally when I fire AR-15s, but ironically, I do actually like the ambi style fire safety selection switch. So it's a nice feature to have on the rifle itself. You have the trigger well, as well as the stock trigger. Now, one of the things I like about the stock trigger on the M&Ps are I don't usually change them out. When I have AR-15s, I hate the stock triggers that typically come in most AR-15s. They're creepy, they don't break right, and I just want to get rid of them and replace them out. This is a standard configuration as well, which you can easily do that to. However, just like all my other M&Ps, I don't change this trigger out. I actually like the trigger break. I like the smoothness of it. It's a little bit spongy, but again, for this rifle, it's a very, very good trigger, and I just don't feel the need to change it out. Now, some people might say, well, I'm going to get better accuracy with a trigger change, which is true, but then why would you stop there? You're probably going to want to change the trigger out, and then at that point, you're going to want to free float the barrel, get a free float forward handguard, and all those things, which really is not needed for this rifle. It's overkill, especially for what it's best used for. So moving forward on the rifle, you'll also notice that it has a set of steel backup sights. These are not the plastic Magpul MOEs. These are actually good quality sights. Not that those are bad quality, it's just they're not as rugged as the steel options. It also doesn't have a fixed front sight post, but rather it's actually a flip down to better accommodate an optics platform like I have here. Typical gas block setup, somewhat of a penciled profile, 1 in 10 barrel. This is the Smith & Wesson 5R rifling barrels that you'll see in the earlier version of the Sport M&P 15 models as well. Excellent barrels, and a lot of people really like the 5R rifling. They claim them to be very accurate. Now, when you buy this rifle, you're going to get this as a standard muzzle brake. It almost looks like an extended bird cage or something you would see on an M1A. A little bit hefty, adds to the length of the rifle because the barrel is already 18 inches. I fired this. It's an okay muzzle brake. I don't have any problems with it. However, I do want the ability to be able to run can on the rifle. So therefore, I put on a AAC suppressor onto the rifle in the howitzer style fashion. And I actually like this. When I fired it, I noticed that the controllability of the fire of the rifle and the muzzle rise was much better with the howitzer style muzzle brake that I put on here compared to the stock muzzle brake. So if you want to really do quick target acquisition fire follow-ups, it's not a bad change to make. Most AR-15s in the 223 configuration don't have much recoil to begin with, so this is less of an issue, but on the 308 I actually like it on the rifle. And then the final thing you'll notice here is my optics system. The optics system I put on is just a simple Nikon 3x9x40 BDC bullet drop compensating scope on the rifle, and then I have it on a loophole mount. I actually like this loophole mount. It's a little bit lower set than my typical AR mounts, which I can afford to do here. It also gives me a better well accuracy, being able to get my face a lot closer to the actual stock. So the AR-15 platforms, I always have a quick release as well, so I can move in optics in and out. But to me, this is a dedicated optics platform for this scope. So in that case, I have a dedicated optics mount. It's just as simple as that. I don't plan on ever changing it out. If I ever go to the iron sights, it's because this got destroyed or damaged, and then I can just simply wrench it off and use my iron sights on the rifle itself. Then the final thing I've done on here is I put on a BCM charge handle, which I always like to have on a rifle, especially like this when I have the optics low. It's kind of hard at times to get your hands around the charging of the rifle, and I like to be able to charge it with one hand, with my left hand when needed. So I did put a BCM extended charge handle on here as well. Now, the other thing I really like about the M&P line compared to some other 308s out there is they use the one thing we all want to use typically, is the Magpul standard magazines. And the reason why this is important, there's other really good 308 rifles out there, including FNs, that use proprietary magazines. I don't want to buy proprietary magazines for the rifles I want to have. I want the magazines to be interchangeable. And these work perfectly well with this rifle platform. And I have a lot of options of what I can use on here as well. So again, another benefit of the M&P platform is it does take Magpul type magazines. Now, on to accuracy with the rifle. This is a target group that I fired with this rifle. A couple notes on this target group. There was a little bit of crosswind at 100 yards. This is what I fired this through. So that did probably affect some of the accuracy, but you would have saw that it was a steady crosswind, so you probably would have saw that for each group. So what I want to do is start out with some of the lower performing loads that I had here. The first one is the PMC Bronze 147 grain. This is a standard PMC Bronze type ammunition. I shot about a 3 MOA out of the rifle. Again, fine for plinking or playing around. Not something I would use for precision shooting. I also tried out the Winchester Supreme, which is a 168 grain ballistic silver tip. This was a hunting load. Again, I got the same type of about a 3-inch MOA off of the rifle. And then the final one was an Australian Outback. This was the 168 grain Sierra boat tail hollow point Match King. So this was actually a match load I bought out of Cabela's. And I was expecting it to fire a little bit better, but again, I got about a 3 MOA out of this. So each one of these three might be adequate for playing around, but I really wouldn't want it for accuracy, especially outside of maybe 200 to 300 yards. The other two loads that I fired here are the ones I typically fire the most. The first one is the Federal Gold Match. This is 168 grain boat tail hollow points. This is the premier type load for Federal that you can fire. This load with a good bolt action rifle, I will typically keyhole at 100 yards. And in this case, what I did with this rifle is I fired at about a 1 to 1.5 MOA, which again isn't as good as my bolt action rifles, but it's certainly not bad either. The second group, which I fired about a 1 MOA with, is the PMC X-Tac, and this is a 147 grain full metal jacket boat tail. This is a load that you can see right here. It actually fired really well within the rifle. Again, certainly good for any type of application. Now, the best load that I fired all day, surprisingly, was out of Cabela's brand called Herders, and this is a 180 grain soft point bullet in brass case. And in this case, you can see here, this was keyholed. I fired a 0.5 MOA with this load. And when you look at this load compared to the other match grade bullets I've used, it looks like a big old hunting load. You know, it doesn't look like a match grade type bullet because it's not. It's actually a soft tip, heavy bullet. But ironically, at 100 yards, this was the best firing load I had all day out of this rifle. So if I was going to go big game hunting, especially I want a heavier load to begin with, but if I'm going to go hunting with this rifle and I'm going to be shooting anything from a deer on up, this group is actually showing me very good performance for herders, and it's also a very big bullet to be firing through there. I don't know what the ballistics of this bullet is. I don't know how it expands or how it performs, but it's certainly on target, as you can see here from the performance. Which leads us to the last point about this rifle, and what's important here is the application of the rifle. So after firing this rifle and using it for a while, this is a rifle that has an effective range, in my opinion, of about 600 yards. So when you look at the accuracy and you look at the application and what I have and have not done to the rifle, this is a very comfortable silhouette size firing rifle within 600 yards in. So it's a good short to medium range rifle. Would I use it for long-term accuracy outside of 600 yards? Probably not. That's not what it's made for to begin with. In its current configuration, that's really where its sweet spot is. It also would be an excellent opportunity or excellent option for hunting, especially if you need to have quick follow-up shots on your hunts. So this actually is a very good platform for that as well. So that's the review of the Smith & Wesson M&P10. Great rifle. I plan to hold on to and keep using it, and hopefully this will help you in your review moving forward. If you like our channel, please like us on YouTube, and thanks for watching.